Welcome one, welcome all. We have a great NASCAR race ahead of us today. We got a ton of options to look through. As always, I am joined by Statsational, who we gave it a run for the money yesterday in Xfinity. I saw Bryce was up there a lot yesterday as well. I mean, it was one of those races where I feel like if we didn't go to a final restart, I think a lot of people would have smashed RPS. I ended up dropping a little bit because of it, but hey, overtime giveth, overtime taketh. You know how that goes. How's been your weekend stats, and how excited are you for the race today?
Yeah, man, I'm always pumped up. I love Sundays, dude. So whenever I see you, I know we're a few hours away from the start of the race, and those guys starting up the engine. So yeah, I'm raring to go.
I am raring to go as well, and I already went once today. Stats F1 at 3 a.m. And if you wouldn't, it wouldn't be a NASCAR or a Formula One slate on DraftKings without them completely botching the scoring. And there was 3 DQs 2 hours after the race ended. The problem is DraftKings changed the rules this year to where DQs don't play a factor into the DK scoring. And sure enough, 2 hours go by and they still haven't paid out. 4 hours since the DQs, and they ended up saying the DQs count. So we got a whole lot of messes on our hands right now that I'm just sitting here. I had to text my rep just to make sure that I'm, because sometimes they say, "Oh, you didn't message us." It doesn't matter, right? So you got to get that message in there real quick, like, "Hey, you have the scoring messed up. Don't pay out." So we'll see how that goes. If you aren't aware with the Formula One side of things, McLaren is now the dominant car by 30 seconds, and Max Verstappen is driving a tractor and still getting fourth place out of it. So hopefully a much better season ahead for Red Bull other than these first 2 races. Stats, though, we got NASCAR to talk about. But first, since it is a free show, we haven't done a free show in a little bit, right? I mean, we are, a few races into the year. The last couple of weeks has been premium. We're doing a free show this week. So you can't go a free show without promoting our product. And that product this week that is especially featured, I mean, Major League Baseball is back in 4 days. Thursday is the return of the MLB. We had a little bit of an appetizer, I would say, with the Japan games, the Dodgers and Cubs tipping off at 6 a.m. each of those days on the 18th and 19th. But no, the whole enchilada, the Big Bang, the 27th, the opening day slate with, I think it has 100K to first up top. How excited are you for the baseball season? What do we have on tap for Run Pure Sports?
I mean, I'm always pumped. The bad part is I got a lot more work to do, with MLB, especially when we overlap with the NBA. But I've got a feeling a lot of people are going to be moving away from the NBA and heading over to MLB. I think a lot of people are just kind of fed up with some of the stuff that goes on in NBA, where MLB, hopefully, listen, 2 hours before lock, at least the early games, you usually have those lineups in. You do have to pay attention. There could be some late scratches and whatnot in MLB, but some of the craziness is not there, or a lot of that craziness that we see in the NBA with guys sitting and these injuries don't necessarily present themselves in MLB. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, you look at the futures markets, and it's like you don't even have to look at the futures markets to know the Dodgers just keep getting richer. And as a Mets fan, I know it all too well. So I'm just hoping the Mets could put a season together like they did last year and just give us a shot. In all sports, you got to get to the postseason. I think the Mets have a shot to do it, but they're in a division with two teams that are ahead of them in the betting markets in Atlanta and Philly. So that's going to be a wild division. we already had a little bit of start to the season with the Dodgers, of course, winning their 2 games against the Cubbies in Japan. So we've got a lot on tap. And then from a DFS standpoint, I do a stacks spreadsheet where I give you the probability of each stack being the best stack of the slate. And I'm working on a few other things, some other spreadsheets and some data that you guys may be interested in. We're going to be looking at some of the better GPP plays as opposed to maybe cash plays, where we're going to be putting a number on the players as far as their the volatility or variability in their scoring, or variance in their scoring, I should say. So you want those. We're trying to find some hitters in GPPs that they may have an 8 on their projection, but they're the type of hitter who's going to get a 0 or a 20, right? So we're looking for those type of guys. So a lot going on in MLB. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have shows, I think, just about every day. I'll be on 1 or 2 of those shows each week. So I think for you guys who are tuning in here for NASCAR. If you are going to play MLB, and I highly suggest it, it's one of my favorite sports to play. Run Pure Sports RPS is where it's at. You're going to get a lot of really good information, not only in our Discord, but in our content and on our shows.
Absolutely. Playbooks for every single slate. I know we had a night playbook last year as well. So if you're more of a what would they call it? A night owl, right? Night owl. You can have your fix in there at 10 o'clock at night. You can get a nice 3-4 game slate in as well. You have a bunch of that. You'll have a bunch of just talk in the Discord too. Shows like you said, and Boynton, JT, DCU, AP, everyone else. I might be forgetting someone, but it's like one of those things where you just got people producing content every single day. I know that Tony, you, JVC, and stuff are going to have their own pages as well. So it's like one of those things where I haven't played much MLB DFS, but I always dabble in with whether it's a 20 entry max or whatever, and it's just fun, right? I like getting those, especially with the way SaberSim has done really well with our projections. And having the RPS projections as well is a big deal, and being able to kind of utilize those contest sims is a lot of fun, and I'm kind of looking forward to it more this year. I will say that. Watching the Dodgers game, waking up at 6 a.m. and, all of a sudden you see Tanner Scott come out of the bullpen. You see Kirby Yates come out of the bullpen. You just sit there. You just got to shake your head. I mean, the Dodgers, it's not that like they were weak at all in the bullpen or whatever, but they just went out and signed two of the best guys, a closer and a setup man like that. As a Reds fan, I can only dream of having two of those arms, let alone they got like 6 or 7. I mean, you look at Vegia, you look at Trenian too. It's like, it kills me to watch these Dodgers. I mean, they really are arguably one of the best rosters put together in recent history. So I know that, it's a NASCAR show. Again, we'll probably touch on MLB a little bit later on. If you're watching on replay, sure, you can skip through if you're not interested. But
I tell you one thing though, and this goes to NASCAR as well. Like especially if you're like a single entry type of player, three max, having an RPS subscription is huge, right? Because you're going to get the core plays. You could follow, if you like one of our specific coordinators better than another, but you're going to be able to see. I like to look at the core and then see like, all right, is there kind of a consensus here? A lot of people like the Yankees today, or a lot of people like the Dodgers, or whatever it may be. And then DC does a lot with the pitching, does a write up for pitchers. He's phenomenal there. And like I said, you could look at some of the content there, the playbook, and you could really build your lineup without doing much research outside of RPS. Like you're going to get a pretty good idea of what your lineup needs to be. Baseball, you could get I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go. Unlike NASCAR, we usually don't have a lot of ties when it comes to MLB. So a lot of ways to go, but I think just getting an RPS subscription is going to help you tremendously. And you build, especially if you don't have the time to put 3-4 hours into research every day.
Yeah, and I know one of my good friends who I talk DFS with every day and stuff, who only plays about $100 a pop each night on any sport, right? Like he'll put $100 in MLB and stuff. I didn't play MLB. He won over 20 grand last year profit, and I know that he really liked Boynton's core and stuff like that. He usually used, and not to say that'll happen again. It was his best year by far for MLB DFS, but last year, I mean, I really did feel like Run Pure Sports did have really great MLB content throughout the entire season. So repeat the success. We'll see, knock on wood, hopefully some good things happen, especially in the first month of the year. It's always nice to start hot. Let's talk some NASCAR now. I know that some of y'all are like, okay, get it over with. All right. You're right. All right. It's time to get into this track here at Miami. If you didn't watch the Xfinity race yesterday, you would have saw that Kyle Larson was probably the most dominant I have seen in the last half decade of any race, really. I mean, it was one of those things where I know Allgaier won the race, but I bet no one feels like they really won. Kyle Larson was 16 seconds ahead with about 7 laps left. They had a really long green flag stint. I think it was the end of stage 3, and then they didn't have another yellow until about 7 laps left overall. And what you saw too, I mean, this kind of happens at this track, right? Stats is, and we'll get your track breakdown here in just a second, but long green flag runs can really play a factor here. And when you do see long green flag runs, well, what does that mean? The cream rises to the top. Tires are a big deal here as well. If you didn't watch it yesterday, you would have saw Sammy Smith started 30th in a stage with 5 laps left and ended up winning that stage because he had fresh rubber. Big deal here. I mean, what do you want stats? I mean, I think the big thing is guys who are good on tires. I would assume, one of those things where you want guys who can take care of the tire, looking at 10, 15 lap stints in practice. And I'd say 36 of the 37 cars ran at least 10 laps consecutively. So we got decent data on how those tires held up for them. What are you seeing here, though, in Miami, and what are you looking for?
Well, you mentioned Sammy Smith, too. I think he was the cause of Larson not getting that win. Obviously, the caution on that restart.
Taylor Gray.
Oh, was it Gray?
Yeah, Taylor Gray spun. Sam Mayer hit the back of Kyle Larson.
It was Sam Mayer. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, but Larson, like you said, I mean, I think the one dominant thing that you didn't mention was I think he lapped like all but 5 or 6 cars as well. So, I mean, there was only 5 or 6 drivers with a shot to win this thing on the restart who were on the lead lap. So that was remarkable. Yeah, he was obviously he tried to go for the trifecta and has not won one yet this weekend.
He did win the trucks. He did win the trucks.
Oh, he did win the trucks.
Yeah. That's why it was such a big deal. He looked prime for this for a potential sweep.
I gotta be careful with the edibles. I watched that and then and missed the thing. I'm like, I don't think he won the. He didn't dominate nearly as much as he did yesterday, but I didn't even realize he won the trucks.
Heim had the best truck, and his truck shut.
That's
down.
what I thought won. Yeah, for some reason in my head, Heim won it. But yeah, for those who don't know, I mean, this is Larson's track, and this type of track. Not only you mentioned a lot of long runs, which kind of the cream does rise to the top. Larson, obviously one of the best drivers in all of NASCAR. But one of the key things that you said there is tire wear. So the guys who are able to really manage their tires and be able to withstand the long runs, not having to pit, not having to change their tires as much. Tire or strategy in general, not as huge a factor here. You're going in, you're getting 4 new tires when you go in. There's no like 2 tire stops. So a lot of the pit strategies and whatnot, you may not see here. So this is a track where we can get maybe the guys who are really the better drivers at this track. We should see those guys rise to the top again, and we'll see. So there are a few guys here, and we'll go over them who have some pretty good history here. But we're in Homestead, which is down in Miami. The nice thing about this track, if you're looking for a correlation, it correlates best to Vegas, and we were in Vegas last week, so we may be able to kind of see who's set up maybe really good based on last week's race results, who may have a really good setup here coming into this week, maybe someone that we're not necessarily expecting. So when you're making out your lineups, if you're unsure, kind of look towards last week, look to see how that driver did relative, if you've got 2 or 3 drivers that you're up in the air about, kind of relative to each other. But we've got a 1.5 mile track. It's another, high bank, multi-groove track. And we're seeing that in NASCAR, there may be a little bit more parity. If we're looking at last week, we had a lot of drivers. I mean, that was not a race that we really were expecting. We weren't expecting Berry to win, that is for sure. So there were guys running and able to kind of stay up in the front that we didn't necessarily expect. So could we see a little bit of that this week? Perhaps. Now, the other thing with this track, riding up the high line and riding like basically scraping the car up against the wall is typically ideal. And especially as those tires start to wear, right? Running that lower line becomes a lot more difficult. When the tires are sticky, you could run that shorter path around the track on the inside. But as we get to the longer runs, those guys who could ride the top side and ride it effectively, that's a Larson, that's a Reddick. Those are the guys who are, of course, 2 of the 3 favorites in this race. So we look to that as well. So not expecting a lot of chaos. We're expecting the better drivers should prevail. But if last week is any bit of a precursor to what's going to happen this week, and Vegas has been in the past, perhaps we could get a few drivers here that we are not expecting. The one other thing, this race used to be for the championship. So it was run at a different time of year than it's being run now. Weather's a little bit different than maybe it was typically in this race in the past. Also, being run during the championship, some of these guys, some of the top drivers, if we're looking at history, may have had their spot locked up and may not have been going all out at Homestead. So we got to take that into account as well. So take some of these past results with a grain of salt, because some of the top drivers were maybe going all out and some of the top drivers just trying to survive. They were already advancing to the next round. So kind of a lot to chew on there, but I think that's the setup for today's race.
Yep, it's a great point there too. I mean, you go through some recent history, just looking at average finishes and stuff, and you got a guy like AJ Allmendinger, right, who has a 10th and a third here. I mean, his average finish is actually the best in the field. I was actually shocked by that stats. It's like AJ Allmendinger, and then sure enough, he's starting 10th, and he really likes his track. You got Bell, Blaney, Byron. And a reason why Larson doesn't populate in this list right away is because he had a 34th year 2 years ago when he was one of the first cars to go out of the race. But you're exactly right. I mean, 13th last year, though. Maybe people are going to get off Larson. I hope so at the very least. I mean, he has been dominant here. I know that. We know what the Hendrick cars are going to be competitive no matter what, right? Like, I'm not worried about Kyle Larson being able to kind of get to the top there. And you're right. Who do you associate with ripping the wall? Well, Tyler Reddick is number one, actually, and then Kyle Larson's number two for me. Those are the two guys who I immediately tried to fit them in the same lineup here, stats. And I know that might not be the most optimal thing, but I do think that they're both starting far enough back to where the PD is actually going to be beneficial. Tyler Reddick starting 20th, Kyle Larson starting 14th. You also have guys like Denny Hamlin who are very good at saving their tires and stuff starting 23rd. Denny Hamlin was also impressive in practice. The stud range, 9K and up, it seems like we have a lot of good options, right? I think the first kind of thought for me is I want two of these guys up top. The mid-tier, to me, is not incredible. You have guys like Kyle Busch and stuff who we'll touch on in a little bit. 8,800, I consider him slightly mid-tier. But stats overall, Larson and Reddick are the clear 2 and 1, 1 and 2 for me, 1A, 1B. But then it kind of gets a little blurry after that. I mean, you can make the case for Blaney and Bell, right? You can maybe make a case for Chastain, even though I don't love him. But overall, I mean, this looks very, very setting up like maybe a 2 Dom for me if you consider both those guys Dom or any of those 2 Doms.
Yeah, I think you're going to need probably at least 1 Dom, probably 2. I think a lot of people are going to go the route of perhaps taking a little bit of a stars and scrubs mentality here, because especially if we get a lot of Larson love, and obviously all the talk of the weekend's been Larson, but we're paying up here. I mean, 11K is one of the highest prices I think we've seen so far coming into the year. It's nothing what his prices were over the weekend, but we do have to pay up. And like I said, if things are changing, with NASCAR, sometimes NASCAR changes a lot. I mean, that's the one thing about NASCAR, like, because it's equipment, you're obviously dealing with a human in the car, but the machine itself, a lot has to do with it. And NASCAR, they change the rules, they change the setups. Perhaps if last week again is any indication of what we are to expect, maybe we could go with a little bit more of a mid-range. So if I was a single entry builder, maybe I would look to maybe fade a Larson. I'm not going to be totally fading him here in my GPPs, my 150 builds. I'll have plenty of Larson, but boy, if I was throwing a single bullet at it, maybe I take a shot with fading one of these top drivers, and Larson should be the highest owned guy on the slate, I would imagine.
Yep, absolutely. I looked at it here, stats, because I like to build a main team, right? I really do like to hand build a main team and kind of run that across like the single entries and stuff. Kyle Larson and Reddick was tough to fit, and you're exactly right when you mentioned stars and scrubs. All right, my first lineup, I'm looking at Ty Dillon. I'm looking at Todd Gilliland. I'm making the case for Shane Van Gisbergen. He got 17th here in the Xfinity race last year. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that I'm trying to talk myself into. It should be noted, Ty Dillon, notoriously slow. I mean, he's not gonna be ripping 25th on pure speed. I just don't see it. Even though in the Josh Williams ride in practice and stuff, he was actually really good. It's just not something that I'm going to step up and be like, yeah, Ty Dillon's going to get there. If you did want to make the case that Ty Dillon did get 21st last week, which was ahead of our guy, Ty Gibbs. Can you believe that? It's just, I don't know. Like, right. I'm trying to think about that. Right. Todd Gilliland was horrendous last week. I don't know what is wrong with that 34 car. I just don't. And it doesn't seem like it's got much, pace at all. He was one of the slowest cars on track, and he was never moving up on pure speed. And you look at guys like Shane Van Gisbergen, who, I mean, he's on an oval. Why am I clicking him on an oval, right? That's the case against stacking 2 10K guys and above, right? And I do think it's really hard to get to Blaney, Bell, Byron. You can throw in there Reddick and Larson. Hamlin is a little bit more affordable at 9,700 compared to Larson and stuff. I wanted to entertain a Larson fade a little bit because, again, his PD is not as elite as a Denny Hamlin, right? Those 9 places can add up. Just comes down to the Dom points. I mean, at the end of the day, you need Larson to get to the top, and you need him to stay at the top for arguably 40, 50 laps. That would probably be the minimum. I guess it wouldn't be the minimum, but like it would probably be the bar that you want to set for him here. I'm making the decision here now, stats, that there's a decent chance that I have Reddick and Larson in my main team. But if I don't have Larson, if I don't have him, Larson would be the first one to go. I think I would have Reddick over him straight up.
Yeah, I mean, again, Larson is the number one choice here in the betting markets. What's he at now? It's like it's plus 350 is the best you could get, but I mean all the way down to plus 285, which is crazy for a NASCAR event on DraftKings. So and Blaney's the second choice with Reddick with Reddick the third choice in the markets there plus 700. So yeah, I'm actually tempted to. I haven't put my bets in yet, and Reddick's been the one I've been looking at the plus 700. You see the track history. You see what he's done here. He had first last year, a third place. He, just like Larson, we were talking about it before we went on the show. Larson wrecked in 23, and Reddick had a wreck in 22. But those are the only blemishes on Reddick's Reddick's record here. He's not finished worse than fourth outside of that wreck that he had in 2022. So whether it was next gen or even in the old school, the old gen or whatever you want to call it, car, he's been really good here historically. So it's going to be tough to bet against Reddick. It should be, I mean, at the top, again, I expect one of these favorites to win, and I think it should be a pretty interesting race. You mentioned Denny Hamlin. Now, that's not a bad kind of, if Denny Hamlin was like your highest price guy, I think you could make a pretty decent lineup with Denny Hamlin being the high, kind of going with the kind of mid type of lineup. If you want to take a shot with a Hamlin, who we said tire wear becomes an issue at this track, we get some long runs. I don't know if there's anyone better than Denny Hamlin at that, and his track history not too shabby at this place either. So Denny Hamlin, let me see where his
well, it's the same thing, stats. He had a 30th place finish 2 years ago.
That's right. He had a wreck in 23.
Sandwich in between those, the 3rd and 7th, right? Not on the Brad outside the 30th finish. I mean, 3rd and 7th. It's almost the same exact kind of style where, look, I think Reddick and Larson are a tier above, but it's like if you got a top 5 finish out of Denny Hamlin, if he's saving the tires and stuff, there's a decent chance he's racking up some fast slaps a little bit later on and runs too. Like it's the same play, and really, I mean, those are the top 3 for me. And then you can make the case for Blaney and Bell. To me, there's 3 tiers here, right? And unfortunately, I don't love Chastain, but starting 25th, he has had 2 really bad finishes here and stuff. But it's like, I'll take the PD lean, which is starting in the 20s and stuff for those guys. But Bell and Blaney would be slightly ahead of Chastain for me. And it's like, Bell has been so dominant. We know how capable he is on any given track, but he's also pretty just good here. And Blaney is the same way. Blaney makes a little bit more fit. Like if I'm just looking at pivots away from Larson, I mean, those guys are, just lining up there. It's where that extra 700 can be the difference between, Ty Dillon could be, Eric Jones, for example, who Jones has decent pace and stuff. So it's like, it matters. I mean, every 100 bit of salary that today matters.
Yeah, it does. So it's a good point as far as leaving salary on the table. I don't think you want to leave all that much here at this track. Boy, we always get questions on the on lineup construction, which I always am a proponent of. I think construction in NASCAR and just about every sport, lineup construction as important, if not more important than actual picking of the right drivers if you don't get the construction right. But so I'm not leaving much salary. I think you typically leave a little bit more salary than I do. I tend to tighten it up and hope that one of the there's less lineups to choose from, obviously, with the less salary that you leave, and I'm just kind of hoping that I hit the nuts in one of those. But yeah, the one guy that I think you have to kind of, if you map out how you think the race is going to go. Obviously, there's a million different ways the race could go, but if you go back to what I was saying, where we're going to kind of use Denny Hamlin maybe as our top guy, then you've got to be of the mindset that maybe one of these guys like an Alex Bowman, who starts the race on the pole at 8,600, maybe he just gets out there and gets us a bunch of Dom points, right? So who's going to get the Dom points if Denny Hamlin? So we're basically saying that Larson, if you're going to be fading Larson and Reddick, if you're fading both of them, you're saying, okay, well, neither one of these guys are going to really dom the race. And if they do, maybe they wreck out or something like that, where they don't, like, they get a bunch of dom points, but it's not enough because they wreck out, and then they basically steal dom points away from someone else. So you got to kind of map out how that race is going to go. So if you like Denny Hamlin, I would look to at least one of these guys starting up front to put in there with him, like a Bowman, somewhere in there that could potentially lead a lot of laps, because we will likely need at least one Dom. Like I said, I'd probably two, but I think if you're making your 150 builds, I think you want to get at least one Dom in there. With that said, by the way, if you're making 150 lineups, if it's just like one Dom max or a one Dom min, you're gonna more than likely you're gonna wind up getting a Dom in your lineup. Like, it's gonna be tough not to get one of those guys in your lineup. So you may not even have to tinker with the settings.
I don't even stats. Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't messed with the rules in so long.
I do it on certain tracks, but yeah, like a track like this, I wouldn't necessarily do it with the rules. So it's really a word of caution when you're using Sabre or any optimizer. But I think Sabre's phenomenal with this stuff. The more rules you start to put in, it's got a diminishing return. So you got to be careful with getting too crazy. A lot of people do that. I think we talked with Big T about this earlier in the season when we were with Daytona. So if you start adding rule after adding rule after adding rule, those lineups will typically not be as good. So limit your rules, one, maybe two. And in this one, like I said, if I just need one Dom at a minimum, and I don't mind lineups with three Doms, go ahead and just run it, because you're going to get lineups with those guys in it naturally.
100%. I agree with you there, without a doubt. Any comment on Blaney and Bell maybe as potential guys you're looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, look, Blaney. Was it Blaney? It was Blaney last week that killed us, right?
Yeah. Oh, oh God! I had nutted spreads, bro. I was looking so good, stats. I was sitting there thinking this is going to be a great week, and Blaney, he had a really fast car, and that's the one thing that I want to mention. Blaney was fast, and sure enough, get really unlucky. He also had a really bad pit stop early on in the race as well, and it just, bad day for him, right? At the end of the day, DNF and stuff, but I don't want to take anything away. Blaney was quick last week. I'm locking him every time in that spot. Like, I'm not regretting that play at all. I can be salty about it, but I'm not going to regret it one bit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I recommended pretty much going, if you were 20 max building, someone asked me, I was like, I would just go all in a 20 max. And if you don't feel comfortable there, no less than 70%, 14 out of the 20. But yeah, it doesn't work. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. And that's the thing with NASCAR. These guys wreck. You blow a tire, you get a mechanical issue, and there you go. But you made a key point, like how good Blaney's car was last week. And I said, look to Vegas, look at Vegas, the setups and everything for this week. So you've got a guy in Blaney who's got great track history here. Second place, back-to-back years at this track. Obviously likes it. He's the second choice in the betting markets. Had a good setup last week. Unlucky. You get him coming in here this week in starting in the sixth spot. Easily could dominate early in this race and get us a lot of Dom points. So Blaney, that could be the guy too. If you to look for maybe for those early Dom points, it could be a Ryan Blaney. He loves the track and should perform really well here.
Yeah, I mean, stats, when I'm going through this list, right, I'm making my exposures now, and I'm kind of going through it. And I'm like, it feels like this year in particular, I mean, you said at the start of the show, the parity in NASCAR is kind of there. I know Bell has 3 wins and stuff, and you look at it, Josh Berry deserved the win last week. Like, no one could take anything away from him. I know he ran good. It was good formula for him to a good script, right? You had a really good result where things broke well for him with the cautions and stuff. But you just keep going down the list. I'm like building out, right? We're in the 9K range now. We're about to jump into the 8K range. From like that's like 8 drivers there, and all of a sudden you're like Bowman, he's decent, right? You got Bubba, who was really fast in practice. You got Kyle Busch. You got guys who I haven't even gotten to, like Josh Berry, the winner of last week, Austin Cindric, who's been great. Like, you have so many good drivers, and the more I look at it, stats is. I think I might be a little bit under on Kyle Larson. Just when I'm putting all these numbers in and stuff, I'm kind of seeing it. It's like you're gonna have to dom at 11K. I mean, there's just no way around it, right? And I think I'm still gonna have a healthy amount of Kyle Larson. I'm not trying to diss him at all or anything like that. Where he's a bad play. It's like, can he get there if you're going to have like these random Fords like Austin Cindric leading last week and stuff? Like, it's very much a real possibility. Bubba Wallace, like, that's a guy I'm high on. And I hate being high on Bubba Wallace because I feel like no matter what, I'll find the wall or something like that. But it's like, there's a lot of fast cars here. And if you don't get a ton of extended green flag runs, like, man, is there a path for both Reddick and Larson to get there at their prices? I'm kind of leaning more and more toward no. And I know it's only been 31 minutes on the show, but stats, I mean, that's where my mind's at right now.
I mean, that's kind of the way I was leaning as well. Like I said, it's certainly not going to be a hard fade for me in my 150 builds. But when I look at, I try to look at who's going to get the most ownership right away. And like I said, Larson should be, if it's not him, he'll have the second highest. And it's got to get to that threshold where I'm like, all right, I'm either all in here. I'm gonna do the market. He's not going to get enough ownership where he's absolute lock all in. So that's out of the question for me. Now it's just a question of what percentage do I fall in? And I think he winds up being close to 40%. I'm thinking ownership in that range. And if you're coming in, if you're doing 150 build and you're coming in 25, 30%, I think that's okay. Because like you said, as you were going down that list, I mean, you've got guys, Reddick's obviously really good. Now it's only a $300 saving, but you've got Blaney at $1,000 less, the second choice in the betting markets. And obviously starting position is different. So we're going to get eight spot differential there worse with Blaney, but there's, I just talked about no reason he can't dominate a whole bunch of laps in this race. You got Bell starting in 16th, another guy pretty darn good at this track. He got 4th place last year. He finished 1st the year before. And all these guys in the practice times were really pretty good as well. Bell was the worst of this top bunch. He was 13th in 20 lap time. And we really want to look at that. We want to look because we expect long green runs here. So when you're looking at the practice times, let's look at more of the longer laps average as opposed to short, the 3 and 5 lap averages. Let's look at 20 and more lap average here. So Bell was the worst, but still 13th best out of this top group, and with Larson being the fastest. So I think any one of these guys can really, there's just a lot of options here. We didn't even talk all that much about Byron. 6th place finish last year, 4th the year before. He's won this race in 2021. Out of his last 5 starts, 12th was the worst he's ever had here. So there's a lot of guys who can be good here, which is why I think we're going to see one of the better drivers. I think we'll get one of these top drivers. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be Larson. I think in the betting markets, I think you have to be absolutely insane to play a plus 285, plus 300 Larson when there's so many other options here that I think can win this race. So yeah, if I'm playing 3 max single entry, absolutely fading Larson, I think is in play this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. The more and more I lean that way. Let's move on to the mid-range now here, and you'll have the complete rankings up on the site from me, Stats, and Big T. Big T has been on fire, man. I swear he almost had the Xfinity shipper, and he also had Formula One, a solo second last week for 10K. So he also got 3rd as well, I think. So I think he had like 14K on F1, and he's been hot in the NASCAR streets as well. Stats, while you were talking and stuff, I go through this 8K range, right? Kyle Busch is someone I'm intrigued by. You got some Dom potential with Alex Bowman. Josh Berry, you just got to throw him in there, starting second. I know I'm terrible at dismissing guys who are starting in the top 5 who I don't think have a ton of win equity. He shut me up last week, right? Josh Berry did that. Austin Cindric has been pretty damn good this season. I look at Bubba Wallace. I talked about his practice speed. He topped the charts in both individual lap time and as well as like the 10 lap rolling, right? And if your tires are able to hold it for 10 laps, right, like you can be good on one lap, but over 10 laps and stuff, that tells a lot. You have some potential here. And I also want to mention like a guy like Ryan Preece. He's got a 10th and a 13th here in his last 2 runs here at Homestead. So there's a lot of options, a lot more options than I really kind of began with. You have Daniel Suarez starting 33rd, Keselowski starting 32nd, Priest starting 31st. Like those are 3 good PD plays. You throw in McDowell and Stenhouse 26th, 27th. Like you do have a lot of options. And I don't want to go without mentioning AJ Allmendinger, who has a 3rd and a 10th here. I mean, like you have a lot of options in this mid range. What are you doing with it?
You're right. There are a lot of options. I mean, the 2 biggest plays here are probably going to be Keselowski, which is just tremendous place differential, and same thing with Suarez. So you've got 2 guys starting near the back, and they are going to get the bulk of ownership in this range. But Cindric, kind of showed last week that he's got speed, and you've got Josh Berry, which I don't know if it was necessarily a fluke that he won the race. So he's starting here at the second spot, so we're not getting much in the way of place to front. But can Josh Berry get out there and dom some laps here, get us some dom points, and at low ownership? So you basically, when we take out Keselowski, take out Suarez, the rest of these guys are going to be fairly low owned, and I'm not all that sure that we don't get one of these drivers outside of the 2 high owned guys. I wouldn't be totally shocked to see one of these guys step up and find their way into the winning lineup. Now, the one guy, if you look at Ty Gibbs, we got to talk about him every week. Man, when you look at the practice time, it's like there's always something that tempts you. You look at the practice times for Ty Gibbs this week; it was really good again, but he just has not been able to get it done. And I think he's pretty much you're done playing Ty Gibbs if I recall, but.
I'm at the craps table. I'm hot right now. Once it rolls 7, I'm out. But like, I'm just going to continue playing it. I'm done with him. And he just doesn't have any race pace, right? And at the end of the day, he is slow. Something is wrong. And I know over the radio and stuff, he was like, "Oh, I'm so tight, blah blah blah." Like he loves to complain, and that's one thing.
Look at him on the long run in practice, though, man. It was like it's like. He wants to give you a reason. This is what I said last week, though. I'm like, what? I think it was the exact place that I said. I'm like, let him just start 13th so I don't have to think about it. So now he starts 13th, and I'm like, well, crap. He did have really good
The
practice
worst thing that can happen now is he gets like 9th and he's in the optimal, and you're like, you've been riding him for so long.
I know. But the good thing is nobody's going to have him. So he will be in my 150 mix. I'm just not going to be able to get off it, but certainly not for anything significant, 5-6%, something like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just it's tough, right? Like it really is, and I'm having a hard time deciding like what I'm going to do with Barry, what I'm going to do with Cindric, and 20 entry max and stuff. I think Barry might make the cut even a little bit more than Alex Bowman. I don't know. I'm unsure. Right now, as of I think Priest is my top guy in this range, right? I wasn't expecting to say that, but when you got really good track history, the practice times were slightly concerning, but I'm willing to overlook that, right? Like I'm willing to kind of bank more on the history more than the practice for a guy like him, where this is his type of track, right? And you look at Las Vegas last week, right? Look who did really well, right? It's just one of those things, stats where I think Priest at 7,100 starting 31st is better straight up than Brad Keselowski. And that's going to be my leverage. I'm not saying that Priest is going to be low owned or anything like that. I think Keselowski's a bad click today. All right. At the end of the day, Keselowski, if he's like one of your last guys in, sure, right? He'll be the last guy in plenty of my teams. I would rather have Daniel Suarez straight up. I would rather have Ryan Preece straight up. And that might sound like a little bit absurd. I know that Brad Keselowski is almost always better odds-wise, right? And I know that those guys are cheaper, so it's not just a straight 1-for-1. But Keselowski just, I don't know. I think, is RFK just slow? Like, is that what it is to me? And I don't know, Stats. What do you think? Do you think that's sharp at all? I mean, you look at recent history, too. It's like Keselowski, it's middling here. Like, it's nothing threatening. And if you're going to be 40% owned, which he very well could be, I think it'll be closer to 35. I'm willing to kind of get leverage on that and play some other pivots in this range.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's about 35%. It's always glaring when these guys with a name are starting in 30th or worse. It always kind of pops out at you. But I do agree with you. I kind of like Priest a little bit better. And because you mentioned Vegas last week, like I do put a lot of weight into this Vegas race of last week, and Priest was really strong in that race. He's got a 10th place finish and a 13th place finish in his last two here, which is not terrible. Certainly we'll take that. If he's starting 31st, we'll take a 10th place and be very happy with that this week. So I think if you're coming down to, you're trying to make a decision between Priest and Keselowski, I like Priest as well. And I think Kez he'll be owned just slightly more. So I think we do get a little bit of leverage from the field. But I think as we're kind of going through this, it goes back to where we started, where you could really make a really nice lineup here in the mid-range of these guys. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be as popular as the stars and scrubs type of lineup. So I really like getting these 9 and 8K guys in together in some single entry builds.
Yeah, looking more and more that way. Stats, it looks like a very, very nice build. And
I'm trying to build it out like now. I was trying to just see what you get here. If you did Suarez, Keselowski in there, it leaves you quite a bit, obviously.
And then you can get Doms, right? Like it kind of fits the build of where you go want a Bubba, Barry, or Bowman. In my opinion, those are the 3 Doms in this range, right? And then you can get a stud, and you kind of already have like a 2-Dom lineup in that sense, right? Where you're hoping that whoever stud you take is going to end up leading laps and stuff too. I mean, it isn't a terrible idea. I know that we say this all the time too, but it's like, look, if I'm playing Tyler Reddick, I'm very okay clicking Bubba Wallace too. Start 9th. I know that I'm just hoping that 2311 has a really good day.
Mm-hmm.
Riley Herbst is starting high up at 19th, but like that's a guy where I was hoping to correlate, right? I'm like, man, if Herbst is starting 29th, I'd be all over him, right? I could play a 2311 team, and half my team just filled out with that single team there. And I'm like, it would be a very intriguing thing to do. And here, like I value a little bit more driver over team in this sense, but at the same time, it's like if you got speed, you got speed. And I think 2311's got more speed than anyone else. I'm going to go with Tyler Reddick as my winner. I know that's something that you're debating on right now.
I'm trying to make like a lineup right now. So we didn't get to this level, but we're about to get down to these guys, right? So if you look down, so kind of the next grouping here, and look at a guy who's not going to be owned at all, right? But if we go with the mindset that we're taking, we're going to take those mid guys. We're going to take Priest, we're going to take Suarez, and we're going to take Keselowski. Let's just say those are going to be our really good place differential guys, and we're just going to go with all of them. And then, like you said, now I've got to figure out who do I like here to dom early. Now, what if you went really? What if it's a Gragson who nobody's taking?
God, you'd be
Look
super
how fast he was.
Yeah. Didn't he wreck, right? Because I think I had him in my no, that might have been the other race. So Gragson was, what place did he get?
He's starting up front. He's starting third.
I know. Oh, you're talking. I thought you were talking about Vegas. My bad.
Oh, in Vegas. Oh, yeah. No. Vegas. He finished way back. Yeah, he wrecked. He wrecked in Vegas, 31st. So look at his practice times though this week. I mean, he was one of the top 5 cars this week. So if he does at that price, if he is able to get you out there, and no one's going to have him. Now, I'm not saying this is likely, obviously, but if you did that, look who you could put with it. Like now you've got, like you could put Reddick and Hamlin in that lineup. You wind up with a Hamlin, Reddick, Gragson, Keselowski, Suarez, Priest. Like it's going to take, it's obviously a GPP type of play, but man, that's differentiating yourself when no one's going to have Gragson. What if he is the guy who goes out early and gets us some lead laps with what seems like a fast car? Now, that said, 20 minutes into this race, Gragson's going to be a non-factor, and you're going to be like, "Oh, this sucks." But hey, I'm just throwing. It's interesting when I was looking at it, punching the lineup in there and getting two of the top guys like a Reddick.
And it's easy to look back on like a take like that and be like, "Oh yeah, Gragson sucked or whatever." But you talk about what, probably 10% ownership, not even, probably like 8%.
No, he might not even be that high. Yeah.
And you look at it where he doesn't have to score more than 30. And I know that might sound absurd, right? But what he does have to do is he has to outscore every guy below him. And there's a very strong probability that if he did dom any bit of the race, he could do that. And it went to the same point as yesterday when I was talking about Xfinity and I did the playbook. It doesn't matter how bad my shitter is, as long as he's better than the other shitters. So and I know 6,600 isn't necessarily a cheap tag, right? It's not like Ty Dillon or Todd Gilliland or Shane Van Gisbergen, right? Like you're getting up there, but at the same time, it's like if you have the top 5 plays, who is the 6th play that can make everything work? Who is the 6th play that is going to score the most? And I think that's very important.
Do you remember how Gragson was here in Xfinity? I'm trying to remember if this was like one of his better tracks. I mean, he was great in Xfinity, but
that's what I think I do remember him dominating at Vegas once, but I don't really remember much of him at Homestead. When I'm looking at recent history too on Noah Gragson, last year was not particularly kind to him. I think he has an average finish at 22nd here in the 2 races that he has raced here. So when you look at his Cup results, it is a 19th here, and then he also raced early on and got a 25th in 2022 for Hendrick Motorsports, driving that 48 in place of Alex Bowman. And didn't Alex Bowman, what happened with him? Was it a broken leg or something that year? Because I remember that he was missing his data there too. And Xfinity,
the exact injury.
Yeah, because I saw like it was like he didn't have like a race in that time frame. In Xfinity, he won here in 2022, the last time he raced. And then other results included a 33rd, probably wrecked out in that one, and a 5th. So he was pretty good here at in the Xfinity, which I think it matters, right? Like you can't just be horrendous and then come in and expect to do well in Cup. And he's been decent in Cup as well. Gragson has speed. I know that we're spending a lot of time on him, but
we're spending a lot of time on a low-owned guy, but I just thought he was interesting starting up front, a guy with all that speed.
Yeah, it's like, look, Barry and Cindric. I mean, I don't think Barry's going to come in high-owned at all. Like, I think people are going to see the winners last week and you said it was probably not a fluke, but I think people are going to view it as a fluke. And I don't see him getting above 15% either stats. And, you're going to need down points stuff, but it's like the same play can apply to Josh Berry where, look, if I'm not a huge fan of Keselowski, I can run a very similar build to what you were saying and just put in Berry over a guy like Keselowski, and at that point, I mean, like the lineup you just built, right, only had one guy in the top 10. That was Gragson, right? Well, you can maybe upgrade Gragson however you want or use that salary or whatever you want. But you can always just, kind of have one tweak and you're still getting 2 DOMs. 2 DOMs is probably the most optimal path to go this week and still be able to do that just fine. But it is a very intriguing type of build, and I'm kind of looking forward to the slate. The more and more we talk about it, I'm kind of buzzing. Like Suarez, I got a lot of. Priest, I got a lot of in my first run. Kyle Busch, I want to get your take on Kyle Busch, right? Like I'm having trouble, right? I just I'm looking at him, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to click his name. Like, is he fully back, right? Like we saw it a few weeks ago, right, where he ended up being in the winter and stuff. But I look at it here, right? The odds on Kyle Busch are always going to be pretty good, right? Like you just look at it at the end of the day, 22-1 at 8.8K. It's a little worse than I thought. I thought I saw 18-1 earlier. So actually kind of a little bit worse than I was expecting, but he kind of fits a team of mine. Do you think that's a good play or a bad play?
I'm kind of down on Kyle Busch here. And he's going to be, he's kind of middle of the road ownership wise. Should be in the low 20s, I guess. Yeah. I'm guessing on Busch, but I don't know. He just, with so many other good place differential guys, I'm not sure he's going to make his way into the winning lineup, and he just hasn't had a lot of speed at these 1.5-mile tracks. So, I'm going to be a little down on Kyle.
Yeah, it's like last week, 33rd, not great, but also qualified pretty well there and stuff. And we were kind of expecting good things from him in Vegas. I was hoping for a little bit of a flop lag, but I do prefer the others in this range. Anyone else you want to talk about in the mid-tier before we move on to our values?
No, I think that's it for these guys.
Oh, I like this comment. Yeah. He said he hated his car in practice and Kyle B's a fan. Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I did like him to start, but maybe I cool off a little bit closer. I'll probably bump his projection down just a bit and kind of see where we end up. Stats, the value range, It's brutal, but it's not as brutal as I think I thought. Right? Like, look, Austin Dillon. You can say whatever you want about Austin Dillon and stuff. It's just like he always kind of populates to where he's starting 30th. He's 6K on the dot, 6.3K, and he's actually pretty good here. You just look at his cup results here: 25th, not great; 10th, 4th. You just look at like those type of results in the next gen car. It's intriguing, and if you have two top 10s and you're starting 30th on back, like you're going to have to be a pretty good driver to be considered. To me, you have him. You have guys like, Eric Jones, who was pretty fast in practice over a single lap, not exactly over a 10-lap span. Justin Haley, always like his, the way he drives and stuff. But outside of those three, once you hit 6K and below, good luck, right? Like I just look at it as that way, where I think Austin Dillon is kind of head and shoulders above the others, in my opinion. I do like Austin Dillon a lot, but again, he's 6.3K. You can get Ty Dillon for $1,100 cheaper. Like that matters. That every bit of salary matters today. But I don't know. Can you talk me on anyone else here?
Well, I mean, I think Gilliland's a little interesting. Starting 29th, obviously super cheap here at 5,600. Now he found a little bit more. He wasn't the worst car like he was last week, and you've got his teammate in Graxon, who obviously has something with that car, how well it performed in practice. So does he find some speed here on race day to make this 29th starting position, get us some place differential points? So I think Gilliland is a guy I would, if I'm looking to kind of save and take one of these cheaper guys, I think Gilliland's one of the guys in play. I think Eric Jones is in play as well. I think he had some speed with this package, some speed that they may have not necessarily had a year ago in this package. So I think he would be someone down in this range that I look at. You mentioned Austin Dillon starting 30th, I think is worthwhile of a play at 6,300. Not seeing, maybe a Ty Dillon starting 34th. We can get almost down to the bottom here at 5.2K. I don't mind clicking Ty Dillon. I think those are the guys that I would look to maybe play in this range. So I you've got enough guys if you are going to go with that top heavy type of a lineup in a Dillon, Gilliland, Eric Jones, both Dillons really, and Eric Jones. Like I said, I think those are the guys that I'd be looking at down on the cheap end if I wanted to play that really heavy, high priced lineup.
Yep, I'm with you there, and this made me laugh. The dog shit Dillons. I kind of forgot that I just said Austin Dillon and Ty Dillon literally consecutively too. So that is funny. And Eric Jones, not a bad play either. Like, yeah, you got options, right? Like, if you have conviction on any of these guys, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm all for it. The big thing for me is just avoiding going multiple of them, right? Like, I think that's the big thing for me is I don't want to go out of my way and get two of these guys. And the first build that I had stats had two of these guys, right? Like that's terrible. That's terrible.
Well, you must have went pretty heavy up top.
Yeah, I Larson and Reddick. Like I said, I told you I built with those two guys. I'm like, I want these two. No, can't do it. You can't do it. Can't do it and be effective. I don't think. Not today. Some guys who I'm just like looking at here a little bit longer as Ty Dillon. I'm not expecting any big things. AJ Allmendinger. I mean, the recent history and stuff is something, right? I know that he was in the previous section and stuff, but it's like maybe just staying in the 7K range, the low 6K range is fine, but not dipping into this 5K range much at all. You mentioned Gilliland. I'll have him. But man, it's kind of a wasteland. Like if you're playing Ty Dillon, you're playing him to fit the studs. And it goes case in point to what I said earlier. You're playing him for what the other five guys in your lineup do. You're not playing Ty Dillon for what he's going to do. And that's the way to approach if you're playing any of the guys. Again, don't play multiple. If I play Shane Van Gisbergen in the day, I better not see Riley Herbst or Ty Gilliland or Ty Dillon in my teams, right? Anyone cheaper than them, I'll be upset. I mean, I'm not going to rule myself out of it, stats, but I will kind of gloss over it and be like making sure that isn't the case for me.
Yeah, you see, I'm just looking at, I'm like clicking some lineups, and if I keep that pre-Suarez Kozlowski, and then I switch off of a Graxon and I want to go even cheaper with one of these guys here. I mean, if I went to like a Gilliland, at 5.6. Now all of a sudden I could play Larson and Byron together in that lineup. If you like a Byron, or you could come down, we could probably even spend more and on than Gilliland and go up to 62. Who's at 62? Let's say if we got rid of Gilliland and we went
Jones.
Oh, you could go to Jones for 61. So that'll actually be probably popular. If you went Blaney, Larson with those three big place differential guys, with Jones, that's going to be a popular lineup.
I'm looking at Blaney more and more stats, and like it's 10K, right? Like it's like, look, I like Blaney.
I think Blaney might wind up getting, as I look at it, he might get higher owned here than Larson.
That you think? No, I don't think so. I think Blaney clocks.
No. I'm sorry. No, because he's starting 6th. But the Larson will be number 1. I think Suarez and Keselowski. It is going to be Larson, Suarez, Keselowski as the 3 top ownership guys. Yeah, Blaney can't get there because of the place differential. But I kind of like that. Yeah, I kind of like playing Blaney there. That lineup that I just read you out, I think is going to be super popular. But I think if we fade Larson and then we go with Blaney, let's do this. I keep going back to like Hamlin just because I like the I like the fact that he saves tires. So if we got rid of Larson and we put Hamlin in at 9,700, you don't even need Eric Jones down there. You've got a lot of salary. Then perfect, boom, Ty Gibbs fits, and we're ready to rock.
Oh God, I'm out. The best part was too, stats is like I kept getting a little bit of Ty Gibbs. I'm like bumping him down like a little bit more. I'm like, I don't want him at all. Like, it was great. I mean, it should be a fun one. Again, MLB starts Thursday. You can use code RPS15 for 15% off your first purchase here at Run Pure Sports. We're going to have the whole enchilada for you. We'll have full playbook shows, everything in between, and Coors, Discord, everything. So if you do want to get in, also sign up for today's package as well, right? Like you got NASCAR. If you sign up for this, if you sign up today, you'll get NASCAR. You'll get March Madness throughout the next week. You'll get March Madness today even. I know that slate locks here very shortly. So, but you'll also get MLB baseball, and that's the big thing here. Should be a fun one. RPS 15. All right, stats. You know what time it is. Sub 20% driver of the day using SaberSim's ownership. I think we have a unique situation here because I think we have guys who I think might creep above 20% here. Actually, I don't know if Priest will. I'll go first, right? I'll just go ahead and steal the thunder. I'm going to go with Ryan Preece as my sub 20% driver of the day, starting 31st. I think that'll be very much on the fringe, but if we're using SaberSim's, ownership here, I think Ryan Preece is my guy at sub 20% to be in the optimal lineup today. Stats, who are you on?
Yeah, I would have won Preece as well. I'll go with, but I'll take Eric Jones down here, starting 28th. Should be pretty low owned. I like that one at 6,100 also.
And I want a bonus one. Bubba Wallace, 30 laps led today. I'm going to go bold. I think he gets the lead on one of these restarts or whatever. All of a sudden, Bubba Wallace is leading the race. I'm not saying he's winning. He 30 laps led, right? That's my thing. That's my bold stand. I got a lot of Bubba Wallace here. 4 stats, 4 I. We appreciate y'all for joining us. It is already noon. Got 3 hours until lock. Have a great rest of y'all's day, and good luck this evening, and bye-bye.